Hey guys, I'm back. Raynday here, ready to talk some more Paladins, this time focusing on the future of the game. This video is basically a response or a continuation of the state of Paladins, and if you haven't seen that, go check it out. It's a great video where I talk about what's happening with Paladins now, what I think we need to focus on, what my message for improvement is, and also my general feelings about where it's at as a game and where it's going. I didn't touch too much on the future, though. It really is about where we currently are, the issues there, and a little bit of a sprinkling of thought about the future. But that's what this video is about. Really, what does the future hold for Paladins? Where should we strive to be as a game? What is the greatest potential? I mentioned, can this ever overtake PUBG? Can this be a 500,000 concurrent viewer, concurrent viewer, but also concurrent player game on Steam? Well, let's talk about that. I think I have a game that Paladins should try to mirror. And if they do, will make Paladins the most successful game at high res by far, in my opinion. And I think it's possible. We'll talk about that today. We're going to talk about how many champions Paladins should have, because I've been doing some thought about that. And with the change in talents, I have some ideas on what I think the number should be. We're also going to be talking about crossplay, the impact of that, some of the ways that I see limiting those moments of frustration that we do have in matchmaking, and how crossplay will help alleviate that and what we should strive to for that. And I'll also, I think, just be talking about, in general, some little things about Imani, the upcoming release, and why I think she's a very important champion for Paladins and needs to be a marquee champion for the game. I also have been given, having dinner last night with one of my good friends who's the head designer of Paladins, Hi-Rez Martini. We were talking, I begged the guy to give me a leak on Imani, and he actually agreed to give me a release officially here in this video only. And I hope nobody else knows this. I mean, that would be weak if he double-crossed me like that. But he said he allows me to release one of Imani's official talents that's going to be coming into the game in this video. So I'll be talking about that as well. We'll go through the details of that. I don't have any footage of it, but we will talk about it. You guys should know what it is. Thank you very much, Hi-Rez Martini, for supporting the crew here. So let's first talk about, I think, the game that Paladin should strive to be. Now, you guys may have also played this game because it's a first-person shooter, but it's also a little bit more of an interactive kind of loot system game, and it's called Warframe. Now, most people know that if you're in the gaming community. Warframe is a great game. It's in the top 10 of Steam nearly all the time. Right now, it's sitting at about 60,000 concurrent players. But let me tell you something. Warframe came out in 2013 on Steam, and it came out to a pretty, 19,000, 21,000, like pretty okay reception. It grew its fan base, but it took 3 years for this game to actually get to 60,000+ players. 3 years before it even hit that as a peak, like on their best weekend ever. Paladins is basically 3 years in. We hit 60,000 players on our first month. We hit 50,000 4 months after that. And obviously a lot of changes and iterations. That's what Hi-Rez does. That's the game. But this game has already seen that wide audience. And I think that what's amazing about the Warframe story is that 3 years in, they hadn't hit their peak, and now they're finally hitting it. And then they hit their peak 3 years in with that 60,000. And then this year alone, their 5th year in existence as a game, they have hit their highest peak of 131,000 players this month. What I think is remarkable about that is that this game started out as a strong idea and got better and better with a good design team who listened to their audience, who listened to their community, who added great expansions, who added things like freaking hoverboards. I mean, come on, who doesn't want to play that? That's why the release was so cool. It opened the open world hoverboards. You're like, dude, I got to try this out. And those things eventually got it to that AAA wide audience that it was hoping for on release. And even within its first 3 years that it couldn't get. Now, I got to tell this story because my old boss, my current boss actually, but used to be in the Paladin side of things, Todd. I love Todd, a great guy. And he would have these meetings, and, obviously companies have meetings. We talk about a lot of things internally. This is an internal message that he shared that I feel it's okay to share. And he would always reiterate this, and I love this about Todd. He said, Paladins will outlive us all. And I think that's a very interesting thing, and I think he meant that this game is really just a perennial game. Like, this game, for whatever reason, hit the market in a way that, it couldn't die. Like, it had these unique things, and it was like people, we changed it, and Essence and OB64, and nothing could happen to this game to where it would completely die and the fan base would just hate it. And if it did, it got close, we changed it, and it got back on its feet. And so I think the future of this game is looking at the fact that this game is going to be around for a while. So is it this rush? Like, do we have to rush anything? I mean, you look at Warframe's success right now, 60,000 concurrent players, 73,000 24-hour peak, 131,000 player all-time peak just on PC alone, and they play on console. Trust me, they probably have good numbers on console, although I don't know it. I think that's what Paladins should aim to do. Try to be the Warframe of hero shooters. Just continually get better. And we've talked about that. A lot of people wanted me in my last video. I looked at some of the comments. I really appreciated the comments on that video, by the way. It was a lot of overwhelming support. And some people almost thought it was like, hey, this is too much support. Give this guy some stuff to talk about. And he said, bugs, crashes. I think those things are very important to look at for all communities, console, PC. And I agree. And we talked about that. I think the future is focusing on those little things. And reducing the amount of new content that comes in, because people have this concern, well, if you add so much new content, then you're going to introduce new potential bugs while you fix them. So we'll be a stalemate. And there is some truth to that, but I think that because the pace is slowed down for the champion releases, that it's allowed more catching up to be done. You guys don't realize the amount of catching up to be done that has happened this year already and that will be happening. So the future really is, I think, keeping a similar pace with the releases, but also looking at ways to continually, maybe every 6 months, do something that shakes things up, because that's what Warframe did as well. They added kind of an expansion every 6 months. What's Paladin's version of expansion? I love these modes. I love the new archetypes of themes. I love the introduction of lore and maps. But I think every 6 months, Paladin should have a big thing. And I want to know what you guys think that should be. So far, I really like the events, the maps. Maybe it is a limited event. Maybe it's an expansion in some way. Maybe it's a new mode. Every 6 months. That I don't know. I kind of like that idea though. But then part of me also says that maybe just keep the polish. So I want to know what you guys think on that. I really think that if I was going to have either one, I'd rather take the polish and wait, because I think the moment will come if you give this game enough credit and you continue to support it. That's my first thought here, that I think the long train, the Paladins will outlive us all. That mentality is what is going to take Paladins eventually to where it needs to be. And I think can really mirror Warframe, because once you have a good game like that, like no one's going to make another Paladins. It's like Paladins is Paladins. And so as long as it just gets better, people will be able to join in and appreciate it and tell their friends about it and feel very confident that it's going to be a great performing game. Two, let's talk a little bit about champions. I know you guys are here listening to Imani. You want the speculation. Let's talk about that right now. We'll get into the talent in a second, but let's talk about what Imani could bring. Now, Paladins right now has 40 champions. 39. Imani will be the 40th. There's about 13 or so damage champions. There's about 8 supports. There's about 9 front lines, and there's about 10 flanks. So Imani's going to fill out that damage, which is the highest role. This is clearly because I think it's just a very played class. Everyone's like, I want more supports in front lines, but honestly, guys, there's going to be three damage type champions in each game you play in Paladins and casual queue for the most part. People don't, they just don't. I mean, everyone picks a Victor, and then you get a Fernando, and then you get an Androxus and a Shaolin. You know what I mean, or a Bomb King or a Cassie. Like that's just what people do. So I like the damage champion being introduced, but what I think Paladins needs is that champion that you look to the game and you say, oh, the game with this person, right? When you look at, let's just easily compare to Overwatch. I don't like to bring that up. When you look at Overwatch, you think of a couple champions, right? You think of Genji, right? Like that's kind of a big champion that you think of. Maybe you think of Tracer, okay? Marquee champions help sell a franchise. They help give an idea and present an image. And I think Paladins, the most marquee champion for me for Paladins is like Androxus, and I'd say like Ying, and those and maybe Mokoa. But I think those champions are so old, right? And not that they're not great kits, but they were designed a long time ago, and the fact that they still hold up is amazing. But they weren't designed with this new kit, the new capabilities, the new kit, the new graphics, the new art, everything that's been stepped up in the past couple of years. So we need new champions to come in and fill that marquee role, and I think Imani can do it. The Warder, everyone's so excited about this release. She's a strong character, female presence in the game, which is always great to see. More diversity and just more of I think, class diversity as well, and the ability to summon a dragon, to be able to fly around, to have this kind of cool, you guys have seen the videos. I think Joshino did a video where she's kind of like riding on ice, it looks like, for her movement skill. I think she has a couple of things where she's playing with these really heavy, high level themes that people can get from a first glance. Oh, fire, frost, dragon, I get it. That's cool, and I want to check it out. I think Paladins should seek to add at least 2 to 3 of those each year, so that the game can continue to make a splash with new champions, but make a splash with new champions that are going to stick into the minds of people. I think Khan was a good example of a release that also got a lot of people playing. I look at people like Muzelk, people like Mr. Fruit, like they played Khan. They played Khan on their second channels, and they loved him. I mean, they thought he was just badass. Koga, they played Koga as well. I mean, you look at these champions, you say, okay, there's a reason they chose Khan and Koga to cover, because these are champions that people see and they get excited about. And so that's what we need a little bit more of, in my opinion, in the future. I think Paladins is aimed really nicely to do that. Even if we keep the pace from last year, which is about 6 champions, I believe, that would be a great addition. Even if 2 or 3 of those hit that super marquee mark, and then maybe some more like, different champions. I think you're going to be able to get more marquee champions because you're doing less. The year we added the most champions, which I believe was 14 in 2016 to 2017, you can't make them as marquee because you're making so many of them, right? And so I think that's a really important thing. I think Paladins releases are going to get better. And then hopefully, if they're more refined, less bugs will be introduced, they'll be more prepped, and then we can continue to make up for the stuff that's going on in the game. Another big thing is matchmaking. I think in general, Paladins has decent matchmaking. It's just about as good as every other competitive game, and I will say that whenever I play a competitive game, there's not a day goes by that I don't obviously get mad at a certain moment. I mean, that's just competitive games online, right? That's kind of how it goes. But I think Paladins has the ability to get better and even better in a couple of different things. And crossplay will add that. When you guys, matchmaking it's a thing a lot of people don't understand very often. Matchmaking is supposed to give you a 50% chance to win your game. A good match means that the teams give you a 50% chance to win. So you're also a 50% chance to lose. So it's really just, do you play? Do you hit your shot? Do you do this? Does somebody overperform? That's actually what matchmaking is intended to do. Now, when you look at that, the way that the matchmaking can succeed is if you have more players in the pool. If you have less players in the pool to be able to be selected from, some matches will be skewed because just a lack of ability to match every single person with a 50-50 scenario. So you're going to get more 51s, 49s, maybe 52, 48, especially if you have to counter for multiple groups and parties. I think when you have the crossplay be introduced, especially in maybe just casual, let's not talk about ranked, but let's talk about just casual play, opening up that pool, I think it will improve everyone's success of having a match that they feel, you know what, I just picked the wrong champion. I just picked the wrong talent. And I think that is important, so that you could still feel like you're in goodwill with the game. That's really important to me, and I think that's where crossplay is going to help out. I want to know what you guys think about that. I know it's a big test, it's a big journey for the game, and I think it's going to be very, very successful. Talking about talents, though, I do think that when you remove these talents, you have a question mark here, and this is another big topic before we get to Imani, because I know I have to give you guys that. So basically, I think the talents removed, if we do remove 4 talents and you only have 3, so you take 1 away, you have 3 talents left. I think that's a great look for the game. You have 39 characters. That means you have, let's just put it to 40. You have 120 ways to play the game, because each champion has 3, right? But if you have 4, that's 160. It's an extra 40 ways to play the game. You give an extra way to play the game to each of the 40 champions. Now, what I think Paladin should try to do is to remove that, and then in the future, look to add maybe 10, 12, 13 more champions. Remember, we have 40. I think actually 50 is a great number of champions over the next few years. 50 to 55, I think, is a great place to settle and see, do we even need to add more at that point? And I want to know what your guys' number is. Is it 80? Is it 100? Smite has like 100 gods. Is it less because it's more of a shooter and because they have talents? And so remember, you're adding 1 champion, but you're adding 3 playstyles, 20 cards each time. So I think by taking away that extra 4th option, it opens you up to have, okay, let's introduce 10 champions with 30 new choices. And so that means we're having, instead of the 40 choices from having an extra option on all of our first 40 champions, we're gonna reduce those choices, but add new champions. So your playstyle is not just a talent, it's a new champ, and they add their own diversity, and you kind of even out to where you would have been if everyone had to have a 4th talent as well that dramatically changed their play. I think that's an important thing, and that's what I would look to do. More marquee champions, obviously less talents, and then really settle around the 50-55 and make a question mark, say, do we need to add more, or do we just focus on leaving it here, maybe 1-2 releases a year, maybe, and you can sustain that. I think that's an interesting thought. Let me know what you guys think. Obviously, the last part of the video, we want to get into really just the goal of the first Imani conversation, which is that her first talent, guys, that I'm going to be able to reveal. Very, very excited. And thank you so much for watching this the video as we get into it now, is that she has a mana talent. Now, if you don't know Imani, she basically has a mana mechanic where she's firing her frost, she's firing her fireballs, but she takes a charge. And every time she hits one, she gains a charge in this mana bar. So you have to charge up your spell. It takes a little time. Then you burst it out. Boom, you hit somebody and you get a little fill of your gauge, your mana gauge. This talent is really interesting, and it's a new mechanic in Paladins. If Imani takes this talent, she gets to stand still for 2 seconds. Now, that's not easy to do, but you act as like an artillery Imani, right? So you stand still, and every 2 seconds, if you stand still, this summoning mana thing comes near you in an AoE. Think a Grok totem. It just summons in a circle. You get this ability to get this mana charged for you based on your mana totem that you've summoned. This is a pretty crazy idea, because then you're firing away, but even if you're not hitting your shots or you're not fully charging, whatever it is, you're still getting your mana regen. Now, why does that matter? When Imani shoots with full mana, she gets an instant cast hit. Now, if you're talking about 1,000 damage, if you're able to go charge up, boom, 1,000, then left click again, immediate 1,000 burst, that's 2K burst. Now, obviously the numbers aren't final, but that's some incredible potential. And you could sit in the back line and basically just keep doing it. Interesting things, because I know you have questions. No, it cannot be destroyed. And if Imani moves and she stands still in another location for 2 seconds, it will summon again. This continues to summon whenever you stand still for 2 seconds. So you can continually set up your spot or abandon it based on what you feel the battle needs. Pretty sweet stuff, guys. Let me know any questions you have. If you have any more details, I'll try to get some of those answered in the comment section below. But hopefully you enjoyed this video. I have one more thought just to expand on with this Moji gameplay as well. I'm really looking forward to these talents being expanded, cut down, and just turned into more viable strategies. I think it's very difficult to sometimes have talents that don't do enough to make you ever choose them. And so I'm also really looking forward to that in terms of not only simplifying, but also directing them in a way that's meaningful for your gameplay. As you can tell, this Moji game was a little rough, but I'm really looking forward to that. And also, Moji as a healer, I think that's a great idea, taking and converting some champions that could be other classes, could be other things. If they're not performing in their class, switch it up. See if you can switch it. I love that idea, and I think Paladins should continue to seek opportunities to do more of that. Thanks so much for watching, guys. As always, never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all next time.